Good morning to our Magpie Circle Sunday supplement. Not a great weekend. Can't even have been bothered to make a coffee this week. For the fifth time this millennium, Notts County have been knocked out by a non-league team in the early rounds of the FA Cup. What are your thoughts and views on that? Who went along to Brackley last night? Eventually, a bit of a late night getting home. My lad wasn't back till probably about 11 o'clock last night. Your thoughts and views, as always. We always caveat those with being as respectful as you possibly can be, but equally fully understand that emotions will be running high after the exit to Brackley. Exacerbated, I guess, because Brackley, although in the National League, are not a full-time team. They train up to 3 days a week. And for me, there were so many disappointments last night, so many frustrations. But I thought one of them was that in extra time, when we are the professional team, I don't think we mustered more than one shot on goal, and that's being generous. And Brackley looked every bit as fit and determined as us in extra time, when you would have expected ordinarily the full-time professional club to have made fitness and professionalism count. Penalty shootout, got to say, didn't fancy us in that. As I say, look, cruel game. Feel incredibly disappointed and let down for the many Notts fans that made the journey. And of course, those of those like me, as a result of the hip operation, meant I failed a late fitness test, couldn't get along. And I have to say, poor. Very, very, very poor. It's a fifth exit, as I've said. Did a bit of research. This millennium. Has anyone been unfortunate enough to go to all of these games? Went out in 2002 at Southport. Went out in 2007 to Havant and Waterlooville, 2008 to Kettering. I think they were in the era of the Trust. 2015 Salford, 2025, obviously, i.e. yesterday, Brackley. Anyone done all five of those? How would you grade them? Where does the defeat yesterday compare to those others? I've done four. I didn't do South, but I think I was still at Leicester back in the day. But I did the other four. Salford was pretty tough one to take. Maybe you'd argue Salford is marginally worse than Brackley. But as I say, really poor. We try not to individualize on this show. Equally, I think we cannot ignore the fact of the current goalkeeping situation and how it is affecting Notts, how it is costing Notts. By my reckoning, losing last night has cost Notts a minimum of £100,000. At a time when we talk a lot about maximising revenues for the club, we've thrown away a six-figure cash injection to the club. How do we feel about that? Goalkeeping wise, clearly Calaroos did not have a great game yesterday evening. As I said before on the show, we try not to point the finger. Goalkeepers always are under the microscope more than other players. But, I feel quite angry, I think, in a way, about the way the whole goalkeeping situation has been handled at this club since the end of last season. In Alex Bass, I think we would all agree we had one of the top two or three goalkeepers. The club in its recruitment have not found recruiting goalkeepers easy. Sam Slocum must have seen off about 6 different goalkeepers over 6 years. In Alex Bass, we got a good one. And we had the double whammy this summer of signing Calaroos and selling when we didn't need to Alex Bass. I know some people will say, well, it was too good an offer to refuse. The reality is Alex was under contract to this football club for another 2 years, didn't need to sell him. Don't think he was banging on the door to leave. And whatever that sum was, best estimates round about 300,000. It could well be argued that's probably 100 grand off that 300 for last night alone. Now, it's one thing to sell your best goalkeeper. It's another not to bring in a replacement who most would think would be of a comparable quality. And Keller has clearly found it difficult. It's going to be a huge test of character for him in the coming weeks. I know, having spoken to a lot of fans who were there, a lot of fans who were on the telly, people have been very critical of Cal last night. I just think it was really poor management by the club, and that would have to be on the owners, the brothers, for selling Bass in the first place, and the second, recruiting a goalkeeper that so far has certainly struggled to be of comparable quality. Remember Martin Allen at the one of the Magpie Circle live events we did at the Big Shed? You don't get promotion by selling your best players. So I think it's on the brothers that we sold Alex Bass. I think that was a very poor decision. And I think also recruiting Kelleroos, and that has to be heavily on Roberto Gagliardi if we judge the comments that Roberto made during his ill-fated tenure as director of football, when he spoke how good a goalkeeper Keller was and how successful he was going to be here. That has to be on the director of football. So I think, as always, let's be respectful. It's not about calling out individuals, but I think the goalkeeping situation is extremely critical at this football club at the moment, and is not really in a position where you would be looking to get promotion. And ultimately, for me, the only way you absolve the players, management, ownership of last night's debacle, and it was a debacle, the only way you absolve collectively that group of people is by the club getting promotion. And to get promotion, for me, I've said it before, plenty of others have, it's an opinion, doesn't make it right or wrong. We need a damn good January transfer window, and it needs to be substantially better than the previous two windows we've had in the Football League. The previous two windows, if I was marking them out of 10, I would struggle to give them a 2. I think they've been really, really poor. I think they have weakened us at a time when we were in playoff positions and automatic positions, and should have gone on to have gone up. We didn't. And I think that in no small part is due to a very poor January transfer window. For me, it's no use talking about how difficult the January transfer window is for value. It's the same for all 24 other clubs in our division. Everyone has got a level playing field when it comes to it's a difficult window to get players in. And I think also with Richard Montague having returned, you'd be looking to get players out as well as in. Now, I'm trying to be constructive and look ahead here into what needs to happen potentially as a result of yesterday's result. Equally, I do fully understand and expect there will be a certain amount of bloodletting today, because quite simply losing to a non-league team and a non-league club who are part-time in terms of their footballers is a disgrace. And I think the one thing I want to also say is congratulations to Brackley. They deserved to win that game. Whichever way you cook it, you can't blame a ref, you can't blame a decision, you can't say we're unlucky on a penalty. Whatever it is or was, Brackley deserved to win that game. And I think that in a way makes it all the more galling, the manner of our defeat. We cannot blame anybody else except ourselves. Okay, thanks as always to our official partners, the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation, and to JH Accountants. Let's get some thoughts from the flock, and as you might expect, there are an awful lot of them. Spotter's badge to Jonathan. Jonathan Hammocks first on. Absolutely devastated watching last night's game and the result. What a wasted opportunity. Attitude, fitness, and application were all brought into question for me last night. What else? Jonathan carries on. He always does a few 2 or 3 parters. Jonathan part 2. I personally don't blame the manager. I blame the players. Apart from Elliot Ness, obviously that's his new name. My Alzheimer's untouchable performance, you might say, man of the match. Lucas Ness did really well. Let's concentrate on the league and get out of this horrible division. Wayne Proctor, just off on my morning run around Portsmouth, powered by disappointment and the optimism of constraint from the league. Nigel Cameron. If that wasn't a big wake-up call for the club and its ambition to play at a higher level, then I don't know what is. It wasn't good enough. Only better players will improve things. Roll on January. Phil Summo, we were second best on the day. Our first penalty wasn't. They just played better. Very disappointed. Phil goes on, our goalkeeper quite simply doesn't command the box. Richard Elvian, good to see Ness get man of the match. Game time for Jarvis and Traore, both coming off the bench. Few fixtures now may help reduce potential injuries and more time to focus on training. I understand totally the sentiments, Richard. We had a clean week up to this FA Cup time. It didn't seem to help us a lot, but it does mean, of course, we have 2 extra days before we go to Cheltenham. No international cancellations this time. So don't forget Cheltenham, and a reunion with Steve Cottrell will be a week on Monday. Clutching at straws, Phil Summo does add, Jarvis looked good. Nottingham Thistle. I said it last week and I will say it again. Cheltenham under Steve Cottrell are a very different animal. Yesterday, Cheltenham beat Bradford City, who are second in League One. A difficult game awaits us. Ian Cooksey. We've got a few from Ian. Apart from making Norburn captain, I'm not sure how you can blame Martin Patterson. Roos, Norburn, Bennett, Jarvis, Traore, El Joffrey and Cotter have consistently shown they are not good enough. Part 2, Hall and Robertson badly missed Palmer. The first goal came after 12 minutes from a cross that cut out all their defence. So why did we spend the next 108 plus minutes trying to walk it in? Nigel Cameron, we lack quality. It's as simple as that. A Dan Crowley or David McGoldrick might have produced a little bit of magic for us. We need to be better than Brackley Town. I thought we'd moved on. Part 3 from Ian. The only positive now is that there is only one focus, no excuses, no we are tired or any other rubbish. January is massive and Richard Montague will earn his wage by not only who comes in, but who can get out, who he can get out. Yeah, I would agree with that, Ian. That's Richard Montague's job, adds Nigel Cameron, and the owners who need to invest in the playing squad if last night's debacle is anything to go by. Part 4 from Ian Cooksey. The way the players present themselves is poor, he believes. Turning up in tracksuits with hoods up, headphones on, it just gives out the wrong message. Unprofessional and doesn't promote the club correctly. Pieface 1862, we should have played our strongest team last night, and that team includes Matt Palmer. You don't remove the engine from the team and expect it to function effectively. It was said, obviously, very unusually, I was watching it on the television, and although the club didn't seem to make too much mention of Matty Palmer on the television, the commentators who get briefed about injuries said that Matty had a small niggle in training. The inference was that had it been a league game, he would have played, but he was kind of not involved as a precaution with this slight injury. To be fair, and I think certainly from what Martin Patterson had said in the build-up and in the group of players that he named, with the exception of Palmer, that was our full-strength team. That was our full-strength team. We had all the inverted commas big hitters playing, and we didn't change a goalkeeper. We didn't change centre halves. That was a full-strength team, and that again makes it all the more frustrating that we couldn't get the job done. What else have we got? Leon Barber. Hilarious that people think Richard Montague is going to sort our problems in January. He's the bloke that wrecked the last 2 seasons in January. We're more likely to sign kids on loan and sell best players. Well, I think it is going to be, Leon, and that was kind of, you don't want this to just be a witch hunt. But I've been of an opinion for a while now that the January window is going to be absolutely critical to this football club this season, because the objective clearly is promotion. Anything else is failure. And I'm of an opinion that we've certainly lost quality in key areas in the spine of this group of players. I think Martin Patterson has done brilliantly well in terms of extracting what he can from the collective of this group of players. Said it before, I've said it again. There does appear to me to be a disconnect, misalignment, whatever you want to call it, between the owner and director of football's approach and the current incumbent that they have as head coach. Some of the players that we trumpeted as being, unbelievable world talents in inverted commas do not get a sniff. That tells you what Martin Patterson thinks about several of the players in this group. And unquestionably, we have not replaced, and we all know who I'm talking about, players from last season with the quality and the abilities that they have. And I think it was a good point made by a poster that I read out. If there was a McGoldrick floating around last night, a little bit of magic here, little bit of magic there, gets you over the line. But there wasn't. And we've gone out. Tim Watchorn, less said, soonish mended. We were awful. Thank goodness for the fireworks. I was watching it on the fireworks were very good and very loud. BBC seemed to be focusing on them for quite a while, actually. Richard Wood, this is what you get selling the family silver. Pay peanuts, you get monkeys. Cashing in on Bass wasn't such a good idea after all. Greza Maxwell, my thoughts on Ruse. However, if he's renowned for punching instead of catching, then he has to be good at punching, which he isn't from what we have seen. The first goal on him is on him. He's 6'5" and should command his box. I must admit, you get a different perspective, Greza, watching Knots on telly to when you watch them live. I always want to watch live. And I'm not, and I don't quite know how it came across for those people in the stands at the game. The first goal, and I would not disagree with you, what was a horror show. The balls come into the box. To be fair to Cal, he's got a punch on it that's taken the ball out of the box. Yeah, now it's a debatable point. Should he not be catching it? But I think we've had the conversation before. He's a puncher, not a catcher. The punch has taken the ball out of the box. So that's not the end of the world. When the ball then gets kind of like looped back in, Pat Nevin made the point. Notts defenders were quite static in staying inside their 6-yard box. So the box hadn't been cleared when this ball is looped back in. But, if I'm honest, you look at Kell and his positioning as the ball is looped back in and his attempt to get the ball is a long, long way off it. And it doesn't, if I'm honest with you, look good. It doesn't look good. It's an incredibly soft goal. And I think I would agree with you that Kell has to take responsibility for that. Richard Hawksworth, morning all. Hope the hip is coming on well, Paul. Yeah, felt like it was having a relapse last night, I'll tell you. Greza Maxwell. He did a poor punch in our last home game, and luckily it fell to one of our defenders that could have cost us a goal. Our defence must be struggling to have any confidence in him. Pythagorean, morning all. I never thought Julian Jenner's non-performance at Salford would be surpassed, but I now offer up Ollie Norburn. Picking up a wage under false pretenses, in my opinion. Greza Maxwell adds, let's have a look at Griffiths in goal on Tuesday night. Wouldn't be surprised. Wholesale changes subject to the rules of the competition. I think it may well be Griffiths in goal Tuesday against Man United as well, Greza. Richard Hawksworth goes on. A typical Notts County FA Cup debacle. I fear we have no option but to discuss goalkeeping. Yeah. For me, with Bass in goal, we win. Reckon Bass's fee just about covers the cash we lost yesterday. I certainly think that the cash received for Bass will be is cancelled out by whatever cup run we would have been able to have. And what I would say, you can't lay the defeat on Kell, all Kell, because there were some terrible performances last night. We lost as a group of individuals, not as a result of one player's actions. What I'm trying to do here is broaden out the discussion and the debate. And the point being that if you sell your best players and then do not recruit to a standard that you previously had, that is incredibly, incredibly risky. And given the brothers' data model when it comes to recruiting goalkeepers, I think you would have to say it has been an Achilles heel since they arrived. We have had a succession of goalkeepers, because obviously Sam Slocum's been a constant, but was signed by Neil Ardley. The data model approach to goalkeepers, for me, has been pretty pitiful over the last 6 years. And it's such a key position. What else have we got? Yesterday's result, Tim Lynham says, highlighted how bad a decision it was to sell Bass for what we received. How can that be considered good business? Ian Hayward, morning all. That was like a build-up to a grand national and falling at the first hurdle. I thought our team was better than that, but our standards fell. The team didn't band together. Andy Newham, I think as fans, we have a right to be angry after last night's performance. Totally agree, Andy. Very few players come out of that with any credit. Ness head and shoulders above everyone else. A big response is needed. Excuse me. Greza Maxwell, the most dissatisfying thing of all is we played a near full strength squad. Paul says, morning. For me, the players played like it was a chore to be there. Why do Notts insist on not attacking once they take the lead? And what happened to us working on our tempo the past week? Derek Flowers. Neutral viewers wouldn't know we were the League Two team. abysmal performance roll on the January window. Pythagorean, Bass should never have been sold. Bit of a theme developing here, I think. Chris Gosling, who shoulders the responsibility for yesterday? It's a question I asked at the start of the show. Players or head coach? We went full strength and showed respect to the competition, but that respect wasn't reciprocated. Players fell well short. Greza Maxwell. I was listening to Darren McCanton's podcast. He's the Peterborough United owner, where he says he approached Notts and asked them to name their price for Bass. Luke Williams won yesterday in the Cup. Ian Cooksey, in answer to Chris Gosling, this is on the players, nobody else. Pythagorean, Gagliardi, so responsible for some of the signings. Harvey Huff, FA Cup aside, I think we have swapped from last season. Really good at home and pretty dire away from home this season. Can't seem to stamp our authority on away games. Needs addressing. Cosmic Nelly, we cannot lay it all at Rue's door. I totally agree. Chris Gosling, Brighton and Brentford went through the divisions while selling their best players, so I don't buy into that. The keeper recruitment was poor, nothing more, nothing less. Chris, you're a great fan. One of these days, I'm going to do a podcast in which I'll show you the comparisons or non-comparisons between Brighton and Brentford. Brighton and Brentford did not go through the divisions selling their best players. Brighton and Brentford did not go through the divisions solely reliant on data. I'll just give you two things for now. What both Brighton and Brentford did was employ seasoned, proven, professional managers. Brighton, Tony Bloom, his first managerial appointment wasn't a National League rookie. We didn't pluck someone from Sweden. Their first appointment was Gus Poyet. Gus Poyet. And they gave him millions of pounds to bring players in. Likewise, Brentford spent a lot of money, whatever they tell you. Both owners, multimillionaires, spent millions. Thomas Frank, before that it was Dean Smith. These are owners who employ proven, experienced managers with big budgets. Thomas Frank, from Brentford to Tottenham, joined Tottenham. First thing he said, data. It's not about data. Data is 5%. 5%. This whole data, AI, algorithm, it's a cottage industry that currently is in vogue. Possession football was in vogue till the start of this season. Tony Pulis plays long throws. Everyone slaughters him. Oh, it's dinosaur football. There's a column in the Times. Tony wrote about this. I know Tony well. He's a good guy. Now, these big Premier League clubs, Arsenal, it's brilliant what Arsenal are doing. Long throws, corners, all of a sudden, set-piece goals are in vogue now. When Tony Pulis did them, it was dinosaur Jurassic football. These things come and they go. But you cannot compare Brighton and Brentford to Notts County. I'm sorry, you can't. You cannot. Brighton and Brentford are in the Premier League. We have gone from the National League to the fourth tier of English football. You cannot compare it. You cannot compare it. If you want to look at comparisons from where we were, you look at Luton, who went up 4 divisions, not with a data approach. And I'm sorry to say this, you look at Stockport, who were also in non-league. Look where they are now and where they're going. You look at Orient, where they are. They are the comparisons we should be drawing. That is what we should be trying to emulate. Brighton and Brentford are miles apart from Notts County. Miles apart. Rant over. Anyway, it does annoy me, that one. It does annoy me. Richard Wood, forget promotion. There's no point anyway because the club won't invest in quality. Ian Cooksey, in answer to Chris, the fees they received were reinvested. This appears not to be the case where Notts are concerned. Andy Newham, we are clearly a poor side without Matt Palmer to make us tick. We have completely failed to address this in the last two January transfer windows. A big January is needed. Ian Haywood, Traore is the worst signing and needs shipping out. Ian Cooksey, Brian Brackley look far fitter than Notts, which is worrying. Chris Gosling, somewhat agree, Ian. I think that the goalkeeper is a position that warrants a fee. John H., how much will the selling of Bass cost us in the long run? Chris Gosling, the fan base collectively demanded the signing of Bennett after a good 15 minutes. Chris, another one of my favourite sayings. Owners should not make popular decisions. Owners should make decisions that they believe are right. Jack Dunnett and Derek Pavis made a lot of unpopular decisions, but they made decisions that they felt were right in the best interests of the club. I'm not sure the brothers bowed to fan pressure and whether that had any bearing in Keenan Bennett's being signed. The reality of it was our recruitment metrics model approach in the summer, for me, totally misaligned with the head coach. And I think it was in truth lacked any coherent strategy or direction. And I think the club probably owes quite a big debt to Martin Patterson for us having got as many points as we have and for us being in the playoffs. Because I think this could have been an absolute disastrous start to the season. And if we can try and divorce ourselves away from the cup, which is very difficult 24 hours after, we're in a half decent position in the league. Andy Eason was watching in a pub in Derby prior to going to a gig, had to exit after they equalised with the penalty. Quite frankly, they deserved to win it in normal time. What else have we got? Ian Haywood, too many changes made too early. Chris Gosling, if our success relies on whether Matty Palmer plays or not, then we have bigger issues. Yes, he's been brilliant, but we have a lot of centre midfielders. John H., how much will selling Bass cost us in the long run? We got what we deserved yesterday. Poor game management at the end of normal time. Still miss Dids's know-how. Stephen Moore, 23 attempts at goal in the last 4 games. Average 6.75 per game, 5.75 per game. 13 of those on target. Problem, results are good, but does the data suggest an underlying issue? Just playing devil's advocate. Stephen, you know what you can do with your stats, okay? All I know is that for the 5th time this millennium, we got knocked out by a non-league club, and a non-league club who, to be honest, deserved to win that game. All the 50-50 decisions, and I don't know whether fans that went to the game have had a chance to, did you really want to watch it again? All the decisions went against Brackley, the non-league club, and they would have, you could have forgiven them for throwing the towel in at a variety of points in that game. The penalty that they got in the 89th minute, under the rules of the modern game, I don't think Notts can have any argument about it. I think the ref got it right. It's interesting, the Notts penalty, because when he goes down, I don't see why he would have gone down unless there was contact, because it would have been an open goal to tap in. Some of the TV commentators were saying, was there contact? Did Grant engineer the contact? you know, I, I think it's probably the right decision, but it's borderline. It's borderline. Where I think Brackley were very unlucky was the goal from the set piece just before half time. I don't see that as offside, if I'm honest with you. I think we got away with on. And I think the point is we were in front for most of the game. Those kind of, Brackley would have an argument to feel aggrieved with some of the decisions that went against them, yet they never gave up. And part of me thought for long spells of the game, although we weren't playing very well, we were doing enough to be in front. We weren't controlling the game, far from it. But we were in front, and when Brackley have the header and the guy heads it, hits the underside of the crossbar, bounces down. They thought they'd scored. Again, the TV shows the ball hadn't crossed the line, but you think to yourself, crikey, we've got away with one there. And you just think, I tell you what, we're gonna squeak through here. Have all the luck under the sun, and we're gonna squeak through. And I think one of Martin's frustrations in his presser afterwards was that we kind of like believed our own publicity that we're going to get through this, and we didn't go for the jugular. We did not go after them to get a third. And I think, as someone mentioned earlier, the most disappointing thing for me watching that game was, you think, okay, they've scored, fair dues to them, it's 2-2. We're the professional club, we're the full-time club, big pitch. We've got half an hour of extra time. We should now be substantially fitter than them. Martin has mentioned on many occasions the fitness levels of the team and how he's worked hard on them to improve them. But in that 30 minutes of extra time, we showed, for me, no real urgency, no apparent greater desire than Brackley. And it was almost like we were content to play out the 30 minutes with the ball. Okay, we now have 82% possession or whatever it is. What's that matter? I'm sure Brackley are thinking to themselves, let's just hang in. Because they must have been running on fumes with players that are not full-time professionals, that do not train as full-time professionals. I must admit, the moment it got to penalties, I thought we were done. And Jatta's first one that hits the bar, I thought to myself, that's it, we're going out. And we did. And I did think we very much went out with a whimper rather than on our shield. Anyway, that's a critique of the game. Let's get some more thoughts. Stephen Moore, lack of creating goal scoring opportunities and a dreadfully poor keeper are big issues for us. Nuts and Bolts podcast, didn't Ness give away the free kick that led to the goal? Chris Gosling, I wouldn't be surprised if Pato went very strong on Tuesday and told the players they need to redeem themselves. Be interesting, Chris. I've genuinely no idea. I think he's going to go the other way and make a lot of changes. The maximum number that the league rules allow for the Virtue Trophy. But okay, I have no idea. I'm sure it will be something that, he'll be giving serious consideration to. David Amy should play the B team. He goes the opposite route on Tuesday. You have to play so many players that were involved on Saturday. But I think because we used all our subs, that gives us more flexibility in how many of the starting 11 have to have started on Saturday. Martin Blaney, another humiliation of a cup performance, lost revenue for the January transfer window. Richard Hawksworth, I'm not aware of this. Some of our own supporters' behaviour last night was appalling. The language used and abuse directed at our own players was disgusting. Clearly not on Rich. I wasn't aware of that. Sometimes when you're at non-league grounds, these things do get magnified a lot more, don't they? So I can't say as I've particularly heard that in league games, but I would trust you implicitly, and if you say it happened, I'm absolutely certain that it did happen. Chris Gosling, look on the bright side, we now have a weekend free in December to do our Christmas shopping. Great. Yeah, marvellous. And Rich Hoxford does add by a small minority of fans. Chris Gosling, I agree, Rich. Some of it was shameful. We've had one bad game in the last 12. Can't fault Jody Jones, says Kate. He created and scored. David Amy, the players walked over to the away side and the abuse they received was unreal and I was shocked. So piecing this together then, David, this potentially happened when the players came over to show appreciation at the end of the game. I always think that's so difficult. It's so difficult. If the players don't do it, they get battered. If the players do it, you are clearly going to get an element of the supporters when you've been knocked out by a non-league team in such a fashion who are going to vent their spleen. It is not right, but unfortunately in football, and in modern society, you have to accept that it happens. So I would suspect that when the players went over, they knew they were going to get some abuse. It's not an easy one. It's not an easy one. Derek Flowers. Can you remember when managers went to games to watch the players they were interested in signing? Now it's stats on a laptop that they look at. Ian Cooksey. Hooray, somebody at last who gets it. Just look at Raddy and Ian McCulloch. How many times did Jimmy go to watch them? Peter Minkley, Jimmy drove thousands of miles in his car to watch players. He would not for a second rely on somebody else's opinion. And look, I am totally in agreement with everything you guys have said. Sadly, or the way, and I guess this is in part Chris Gosling's point earlier. And sorry, because I have to jump on it because I do not for 1 minute see how you can compare us with Brighton and Brentford. But the sentiment of the way players are recruited, yes, totally agree. And that, I am afraid, is the brothers' model. And as much as we all might say, well, in the past we did this and it worked, I don't see it changing. It's the way the brothers are going to do their business. We are going to be reliant on stats. We are going to be reliant on data. And for me, it's not about refining algorithmic models or whatever. Somehow you've got to have more joined up thinking between the head coach who you appoint, the director of football, and the owners. Because while we have signed some very good players, we've also signed some players that have totally not been aligned with the head coach's thinking. We signed players without the head coach. For me, I think it's a flawed model when we look at Stockport, Mansfield, Wrexham, Bradford, Doncaster. But that is the model we've got. I don't see it changing. I don't see it changing. So we've got to hope the brothers adapt, refine, however it is that they do it. And for me, whoever the head coach is, be it Martin Patterson, whatever, somehow along the way, I think the head coach, who is your most experienced professional football person in the club, has to have more of an input. Ian Cooksey, exactly the same with Peter Taylor over the river. You've got to get off your backside and watch players. But Chatwin, morning. Sorry I'm late. Thought yesterday was terrible. Hope he gets the players sorted for Tuesday and take that as a match for players to redeem themselves. Andy Eason, dare I say, Jarvis brought something to the table in the bit I saw of before the 90 minutes were up. Greza Maxwell likes the collars today. John H. Ours definitely a penalty. Watch how Grant's body falls after contact, and why would he go down when he was rounding the keeper? Yes. There's also cast iron penalty. Not sure what Norburn was doing. Years ago, the whole way of that to try and block was acceptable. Now it's all to do with silhouettes, isn't it? That's not a natural silhouette. That is. So if it hits me arm there, that wouldn't be a penalty. That is. Yeah, I mean, exactly. Chris, now this was, I was going to try and bring some levity to the situation, but I was trying to work out how to bring it in. Then I forgot. And Chris Gosling has kind of made me aware. I went to the toilet before penalties. I had a tap on the shoulder. You'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. I had a tap on the shoulder saying, "Can I just get in front of you, please?" I was about to say, "No, wait your turn." Then I realised it was Martin Patterson, so I had to let him take my space. The reason I'm laughing, you've got to laugh somewhere along the line. But when my lad Harry got in last night, he was telling me a story about the toilets, and he said, "Yeah, it was really funny, Dad." He said that the toilets were behind. I forget whether he said were behind the dugouts, and he said, so like you go to the toilet and there'd be a player in there. He said, and he said when he went, one of the Brackley. This was round about the similar time. Brackley players might have been I might have been at the end of normal time. So he's gone in, and the Brackley players in the toilet, right? So all the Notts fans are saying, "Lock him in, make sure he can't come out for extra time." And apparently, some stewards heard the Notts fans discussing locking the Brackley striker in the toilet so he couldn't come out for extra time. And some stewards came along to, inverted commas, manage the situation. So, I mean, you couldn't make it up, could you? You couldn't make it up. Anyway, Chris Gosling. I went on to Martin. Sorry, I didn't realise it was you. He said it was him who should be saying sorry for us having to watch that performance. Yes, there we are. There's a little bit of levity just managed to creep in there. Toilets and sharing them with players, with Martin Patterson and anyone else. Okay, I've managed to read everybody's thoughts out. We're 47 minutes into the show, so we've done a half, which is more than Notts managed last night. Do we have any more thoughts or considered views? Who will be going on Tuesday night? Manchester United. I do actually think we'll win. I don't know what Manchester United's statistical record is in the Virtue Trophy. I should think it's about, when it comes to wins, it's about 0.00%, isn't it? Got to say, hopefully with a hip, I can make a movement down there. I'm not bothered, if I'm honest. I'm really not bothered. I know people will talk about response. For me, the response is Cheltenham. The response is Cheltenham next Monday night. And as people have already said, I suspect Steve Cottrell, who's one of the most uber competitive people I've ever met, he was so desperate after Forest Green had been relegated to beat Notts, if you remember when we went down there on the last day of the season a couple of years ago, and he did, didn't he? And he did. Yeah, for me, I think there's a lot of pressure really that we shouldn't need to have, given the recent run of league form, because we have played very well in the league. No two ways about it. But it does ramp it up a bit. Hang on, let's read a few more messages. Richard Hawksworth. I was lucky enough to share the toilets with Maz Kuyar. I'll tell you what, these sorts of conversations can get you into trouble, Rich. Okay? Not something you would ordinarily boast about, I'm sure. Oh dear. Ian Cooksey. Decent show again. It's been considered opinion, which, considering last night, is impressive. Andy Eason. 9 matches and 60 days until the window opens. Realistically, it's not the thing we should be reaching out for. But Richard Montague, over to you. People that know me, I'm all about accountability and responsibility. And I think for the owners and for Richard Montague, and because that's his job, in the same way as it's Calru's job to be a goalkeeper, in the same way as it's Alessandro Jatta's job to score goals, it's Richard Montague's job to bring in players and move in players out in January. That's his job. You know, let's be totally transparent about this. Right now, Notts needs a brilliant January transfer window to help us redeem a situation that has been exacerbated by yesterday's cup exit. And when we talk about money, and when we talk about budget, and when we talk about, being held to ransom in the January transfer window and not getting value, well, I'm sorry, the footballing department, in inverted commas, have just blown a minimum 100. And if you went on a good cup run, second, third round, that could easily have been 2, 3, 400,000 pounds, right? And they've blown it. They've blown it. So you've got to take responsibility and accountability. PJ Defiance, PJ, good to see you. Sorry I'm late. I hope you are recovering well. Yeah, I'm not too bad. Took a bit of a relapse last night between 5:30 and about 8:20. Robbie, I don't think we can totally absolve Martin from blame. He failed to motivate the players on the night, and the players didn't play for him. It's a bit worrying as far as I am concerned. Ian Cooksey, win at Cheltenham, and 99% of the fans will forget last night, and the promotion push will be on. I agree with your sentiments, Ian. I do think this defeat has one or two longer term repercussions for how we produce or don't produce in the January transfer window, because I don't think the club can turn round in January and if it's a modest transfer window and say, oh well, it wasn't good value, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, it's not the right time. This is why you win the cup games. This is why you don't blow it, because then you've got a bit more money and cash in your pocket to be able to spend and spend wisely. Chris Gossing, I wonder if Montague is eyeing up any Swansea players. Wages might be an issue, Chris. Sadly, says PJ, as Roos has just made himself a target for every other team on how to put him under pressure. I think it becomes more transparent now, PJ. It was network television. Lots of clubs will have been scouts, managers, players themselves will have been watching that game. Steve Silver, looking forward to transfer window opening. Martin Patterson shouldn't be having to apologise to us watching that last night. Feel sorry for him. He's a great guy. Throwing one out there, says Wayne Wilkins, imagine the uproar if Maynard was still in charge. Ian Cooksey, totally agree, Paul, and I can see it happening, but the league has now got to be the focus 110%. Okay, guys, we're coming up to the hour mark. Right, I'm going to do my rehab exercises, get my crutches out. You can see them in the background. Thank you as always. Thank you for being balanced and as constructive as we possibly can be under the circumstances. A Football League club loses to a non-league club. You are exposed to ridicule. You are exposed to embarrassment. And unfortunately, that's something we've got to take on the chin. We'll be back Monday night, tomorrow night, with Mark Stallard with the professional's view, see what he's got to say. Thank you, one and all. Thank you to our official partners, Big Shed at the Trent Navigation, and to JH Accountants. See you all Monday night. Tuesday is the Virtue Trophy against Manchester United. Think that's an earlier start as well. And don't forget, no weekend action next weekend. Our game is going to be on the telly again. Whoa, joy. Cheltenham away on the Monday night and a reunion with Steve Cottrell. Thank you, one and all. We'll speak soon. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.